So a very good evening to one and all present. I hope I'm audible to everybody. I hope you guys can hear me. Just let me know in the chat box if you can hear me or not. Welcome to our new episode of UTV by Vijay Bhumi, and this is a part of our knowledge series. I'm super excited to be doing this particular episode because I'm joined by my batchmate and a very, very close friend of mine, and it's my proudest privilege to have her on our episode today. So we're going to be joined today by Miss Vaishali Singh. Vaishali is a 2019 IAS officer currently serving as Assistant Commissioner under training at Kurukshetra. She did her BA LLB honors from National Law University, Delhi. I know she will hate me for saying this, but she is a gold medalist as well. And it's not like she only just won one gold medalist. She's one of the most hardworking people I've ever known in my life. After finishing her law degree at National Law University, Delhi, she started working in a law firm in Delhi. After which she realized that her calling was something else, and that's when she decided to pursue the Indian Administrative Services. Um, she got a rank number 8 in the civil services examination of UPSC. Apart from that, she's an avid sports player. She loves reading. So thank you very, very much, Vaishali, for joining us today.
Hi, Kritika. Thank you.
So I'm sure a lot of you guys will have a lot of questions. So make sure that you ask us a lot of questions in the chat box. If you guys are having some problem with the audio or the video, I would request all of you to refresh your internet connectivity link. Sometimes that just works perfectly. Vaishali, you're able to hear me clearly, right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, great, awesome. So without further ado, let's get into the session. I hope you guys have a lot of questions to ask her. Make sure that you are asking us a lot of questions in the chat box. Right? Vaishali, do you hear an echo when I'm speaking?
No, it's absolutely fine. It's fine. Not an issue.
Okay, fine. Great. That's perfect. Okay, so let's get started in the question. So first question to you, Vaishali. What inspired you to become an IAS officer? So let's start from the basics.
Right. I would say the initial inspiration came from my father, because as a kid, my father always wanted me to be an IAS officer. But when I joined law school, I decided to explore options which were available within the law school, so as to see, it was to make an informed choice. I didn't want to jump into IAS just because someone else told me to. I wanted to jump into it only when I was sure that I really want to go for it. And I think it was the law school and the various experiences that I had there that kind of pushed me towards civil services. And ultimately, what inspired me was the realization that civil services, the opportunity that civil services offers us to reach out to the masses at the very basic level and simultaneously also contribute to the larger nation building process is unparalleled. Something which I found lacking in the law firm where I was working. So I think my inspiration came that, if I am spending some 10 hours in a law firm working for someone, I would rather work in an area where my work can have direct impact on the masses. And having joined the district for the past 2 months, I think this belief has further strengthened. Yeah.
So Vaishali, another thing, did you from the day one, like, when you were a child, was it always a childhood dream of yours, or is it something that you had a realization over a period of time कि मुझे IAS officer बनना है? कि बचपन से ये था कि नहीं IAS officer ही बनना है मुझे?
नहीं बचपन से तो I didn't have this dream because I didn't have any IAS officer in my family or anywhere around. So I didn't really know what it means to be an IAS officer initially. It was just my father who used to kind of push me towards it. But it was actually a realization over a period of time. There was no turning point. There was nothing, no specific incident that happened in my life that made me go like, no, I need to join civil services. It was more of a realization about, the different job options which were available to me and how I found that this career option was something that appealed to me the most, something that would provide me that sense of satisfaction of having, lived a life where I could contribute. And I think that realization which came after having experienced various other options was something that was actually my inspiration behind IAS, and not really any specific turning point. Yeah.
Super. If I want to ask you that, so why did you end up pursuing law? Like, what was the motivation behind becoming a lawyer? And did that journey of yours in law school have any bearing on you wanting to become an IAS officer?
So I come from a family of lawyers. My mother, my father, my brother, my extended family members, they're all lawyers. So since childhood, I grew up in an environment where I was surrounded by lawyers. We used to have conversations which surrounded law, and I realized that law as an area really interested me. And I also realized that the study of law was something that was empowering because you get an understanding of various rules and procedures which govern our daily lives and which also, regulate the fabric of society. So, what happened was ultimately law appealed to me more than any other area of study, and that constant interaction with a set of lawyers really pushed me towards it. So I think in class 10th only I had decided that I'm going to go for law, and I am quite thankful for having studied law, because like you mentioned, law has played a major role in my life, even in my decision to go for civil services, because it has really shaped me as an individual. Because the study of law per se changes our bent of mind, it broadens our horizon. Because, like in law school, we used to interact with such diverse set of people. There were such amazing lectures, there were research projects where we have worked with prisoners, where we have worked with death row prisoners, their families, and at the same time, we've also seen people from the vulnerable sections, such as the transgenders, even the differently abled, come and interact with us. So it broadened my horizon. It made me realize various issues that different sections of society face, and it sensitized me towards the different needs and issues which are there in the society. And that is something that also made me, realize that probably civil services is one platform which will allow me to serve those interests. And on the other hand, apart from law per se, the various experiences which our law school offered, I mean, NLU Delhi was a huge box of experiences, and I'm quite humbled to have gotten to experience so much, especially my work with IDI, where I could see that a small effort from our end could change lives. I remember my student, Trilok, he got admission in one of the top schools, and he called me up, and the excitement in his voice was just moved me so much, and I realized that this was just one thing that I did, and civil services will offer me a lot many more such opportunities, which it is already. So I think law school really pushed me towards civil services, and I can't be more grateful.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with Vaishali, and I must tell you guys, because I've had the good fortune of being a batchmate at NLU Delhi. The kind of activities, extracurricular as well as curricular, that Vaishali was involved in, I think that has really pretty much shaped, the kind of person that she is today. So I think for all the students who are joining us, who are in college, I mean, you might be doing a civil services preparation, but I think it's very important for you guys to diversify and make the best use of these experiences as well, because this is what is going to take you a long way, as an officer. So, I think Vaishali, we need to talk about this. If you could recount, what was that turning point in your life when you realized कि हाँ भाई मेरे को तो IAS officer बनना है?
I don't think there was a turning point per se, but it was a realization that came with different experiences. But if I have to mention any one specific incident, then that would be I was sitting in my law firm where I was working. It was 2 in the night, and I just started. I was waiting for some client to send me some work, and I just started recalling what all I had been through in terms of experiences during the law school, and I just took a stock of where I am. I'm sitting in an office at 2 a.m. and seeing, okay, what am I doing? I mean, is this really what I want to do as a first choice of my career? Is this really, do I want to serve here or do I want to serve elsewhere? And I just had a, conversation with myself, and I decided that I will not give up, but I won't give in so easily into something that I'm not very sure about. So I decided, let's take a leap of faith. Let's try something that I really want to. And At that time, civil services appealed the most to me, and I think at that point, I made up my mind that I will definitely give this a shot before going for anything else. So you can say that all those experiences culminated into that one moment when I was sitting in office. So yeah.
I think what you're saying, that's key, right? I mean, it's so important for you to discover your passion. And now coming to the most important question that most of the people want to listen to here. How did you start preparing for a civil services exam? What is the starting point?
Okay, so I think the starting is the most difficult part because there's that inertia, there's that lack of knowledge, lack of familiarity. You feel so lost. There's just so much to read. The syllabus is huge, and if you don't have anyone to help you around, then you feel really lost. So I think my starting point was to contact my friends who were already preparing for civil services, so as to to just get a sense of what the demands of the paper are. And second, I watched a few online videos of a few toppers to see, to just feel normal, because even they used to feel lost in the beginning. So that really normalized the entire preparation for me. And then there wasn't much time because I quit my job in around January 2017, and my first attempt was in 5 or 6 months. So I just jumped into studying. So I think the starting point is just to familiarize yourself. Just tell yourself that, just be aware of what is being demanded of you, because it's obviously not a very easy exam. And then just jump into the preparation, because there are no two ways about it. You can't. There is no shortcut. Nothing. You have to work hard and just start. That starting is difficult.
Yeah. So Vaishali, another question that I'd like to ask you was, a lot of people might have these similar experiences. How many attempts does it take to actually crack this exam? And what do you think? Sometimes people don't make it. Do you think how should you take it positively and kind of move on with it? Because a lot of people do get disheartened, right? I mean, you don't make it. You're putting so much of a preparation into it. So, what would be your advice to those people? How do you see it? And if you could give some insights from your personal experience.
Right. I don't think there is any specific number of attempts that we can say is required to clear this exam. I have seen amazing officers clear in their first attempt. I've also seen amazing officers take 5 or 6 attempts to clear. It doesn't really matter in the sense that there is no such specific number. So what happens is, usually when we think of a number कि नहीं पहले attempt में ही होना चाहिए या second attempt में ही होना चाहिए, so that's it. We tend to get disheartened when we don't clear. That happened with me also, because I used to hear कि नहीं एक attempt में हो जाता है. When I didn't clear prelims in my first attempt, I was kind of disheartened. I used to question, okay, what went wrong? But I think what is important is not the number of attempts, but learning from your mistakes in each attempt. If suppose I didn't clear in my first attempt, there were a number of reasons why I didn't. And most of us, we fail to do this exercise, that we don't really reflect upon the attempts that we have given. We don't really reflect upon where we went wrong. There are a number of areas that you need to work on after every attempt. And so I think instead of feeling disheartened by not clearing in a particular attempt, I think if you have that zeal in you that you have to clear, then I think the way to go about it is that you sit down one day, make a list of things that you think went wrong with you, and just try and find solutions to it. And as far as the other question goes, that about people who might not end up clearing, I would just like to say that, this is not the end, obviously. And God will have something else in store for you. You might be made for something bigger. You might be made for something else. And at that point of time, you feel कि इससे ज़्यादा बुरा कुछ नहीं हो सकता, that your entire effort has been wasted. But trust me, the syllabus and the preparation of UPSC per se makes you a very strong person to deal with that stress, to deal with the amount of workload that you have, and to just still go on, to still carry on. It really converts you and changes you as a person, and it makes you. It hardens you, and I think in any other field that you later go on in, it is just going to help you. So I don't think we need to feel disheartened, because there is a lot more in store.
So, Vaishali, a lot of people are also facing this doubt, right? What about coaching institute? Did you take coaching? Is it required? Can you prepare on your own? What is your suggestion?
So there are different strategies for every person. There is no one strategy per se which works for a person. So I always say this: if you feel that you need coaching, if you are a person who studies better when you are being taught by someone, or when you study better when there is a schedule which has been provided to you, and there is someone sitting on your head and teaching you, then go for coaching because that's what works for you. But if you are a kind of person who prefers to do self-study, who doesn't like to study in a group, then coaching is probably not for you. So no coaching institute can guarantee that you will clear if you join their coaching. And at the same time, there are so many people who clear without coaching also. So I think it's your personal call. I took online weekend coaching from an institute because when I started my preparation, I didn't have guidance from anywhere else. And I thought it would do good for me at that point of time to have some sort of a guidance to direct me in the correct direction because I didn't want to be directionless. So that was my need at that point of time. But in my second attempt, I realized that, that probably didn't work for me. And I studied better when I studied myself. So in my second attempt, I didn't take coaching. So I think this is a call, this is a personal call, and it varies from person to person.
I think, yeah, that makes sense. It's not like the one glove fits all strategy. I mean, it's something that's so dependent on your way that you approach your studying and preparation. So I think what everybody would like to know here, that if Vaishali Singh had to share with us, what is her secret mantra to cracking this exam and getting this stupendous rank that you got?
Yeah, to be honest, there is no secret mantra per se, but I think what really worked for me was how I learned from my failure at the first attempt. Wait, Kritika, I think the audio is not clear because I'm getting a lot of messages in the chats that the audio is not clear. So,
I am able to hear you clearly.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool, I'll continue. So I think what worked for me best was that I realized that this exam is not just about knowledge. Because my first attempt was just about reading as much as I could, covering as much syllabus as I could without really realizing what were the demands of the paper and what without realizing, that what will work best, how to maximize my marks. I was just study, 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 study. But it was after my first attempt that it hit me that this exam is 50% about knowledge and 50% about strategy. And it's not just about hard work, it is all about smart work because there's so much to do and you can't cover everything. So my secret mantra would be that I really worked very hard on my strategy. And I will give a few examples. Small things really make a difference. Like in my first attempt, my sleeping cycle was really weird. I used to sleep at 6 in the morning and wake up at 12. So my mind was used to of sleeping at the time when the exam was supposed to take place. And when suddenly one day I got up and I went to write my first prelims, my mind didn't work because it was sleeping, right? Like naturally, because that's how body clock works. So then I decided, okay, no, this is not going to work for me. So I switched my strategy. I started waking up on time. I used to do one mock test every day at the precise hour when the exam was supposed to take place, 9:30 to 11:30. So that was one of my strategies. My another strategy was to identify the demands of the paper per se, because prelims, mains, and interview, they're all three very different stages. So I needed to know what needs to go in prelims, what needs to go in mains, and ultimately how interview is going to work out. So second strategy was to identify the demands of the paper, and third was to just practice. Be it prelims mock test or mains answer writing or interview mocks, there was a lot of inertia initially because we all think that, we'll fail, we won't score much, we don't want to attempt too much. We're like, सीधा जाके exam में लिख देंगे. But that's not how it works. You need to write. So I would just say that this exam is about knowledge plus strategy. If you pay too much attention to any one of it, then you will falter somewhere or the other. You need to have that balance. And at the same time, I think you need to be humble about your preparation. I think that's what helped me. Humble in the sense that if you are not clearing, if there are issues which you're facing and not being able to score much, then that you're going wrong somewhere, and it will do well to us if we identify that, you're going wrong somewhere. It's okay to ask for advice. It's okay to stop and say, no, you're wrong, and to correct yourself. If you won't be humble in this preparation, then this preparation will become a really difficult task for you.
I think, that's some really valuable advice coming from you. So, as I see it, we have like largely three kinds of students who are joining us today, like aspirants joining us today. One are the people who are in college and who are pursuing this particular exam. The second are the people who are, working and also preparing for this exam. And the third is the people who have taken a break and who are just single-mindedly focused on preparing for this exam. So, what is your advice to people who are in college? How should they balance like college as well as preparation? And what is your advice to people who are working as well as doing preparation? Like, how do you think we should manage the, cycle in both the situations? Do you think it's possible for you to do a job as well as to prepare for this exam?
Honestly, I left my job to prepare. So I haven't been in a situation where I was working and yet preparing. But I know a number of successful aspirants who were working and yet were preparing for the exam, and they could manage. It's all about identifying whether you're able to give enough time or not. For instance, if your job is really demanding, if you're working from 10 to 10, if you're working for long hours and you're not able to take enough time out, and that will become a problem. But if your job is such where you're able to take out sufficient amount of time for preparation, then I don't think it is a necessity to leave your job to prepare. Like I said, it's a lot about smart work and it's a lot about your strategy. If you've got your strategy right, and if you're studying smartly, then the number of hours is not a big issue, and you can prepare alongside your job. So that is for people with jobs. So I don't think it's a necessity to leave your job and prepare. You can very well prepare with your job. And when it comes to college students, I my firm belief is that UPSC is a very uncertain examination. If I also write again, there's no guarantee that I will clear, right? So the exam is very subjective. There are a lot of uncertainties. So it works well if you have a good backup. And in backup, I mean to say that if you've done your education, if you've done your college education really well, in the sense that you should not put your education opportunities in whichever university or college you are at stake for UPSC. I would say that you should grab all the opportunities which you get in college and yet prepare. So don't give up on everything else to follow this one dream, because that is a risky adventure in my humble opinion. But at the same time, any college would definitely offer enough time for you to be able to study. So you can, in the first 2 years of your college, for example, focus on the fields that you're actually studying. And it's only towards the end of the last 2 years that you can pick up UPSC preparation, because it doesn't take more than 2 years or 1.5 years to prepare well. But do have options in hand, excel at what you're doing in college, so that you don't have that stress also that ye nahi hua to kya. That stress also really hampers our preparation. So it does well to have a kind of a backup, and that comes from pursuing your college education seriously.
Yep. So as they say, Vaishali, the devil is in the details. So let's now deep dive a little more into your preparation. So if you can talk about, let's split your preparation into preparations for the prelims, preparations for the mains, and preparation for your interview, right? So if you can talk to us a little bit about how many hours in a day did you spend while you were preparing for the prelims? Like how many hours were you studying? How did that differ when you went to the mains? And again, how did that differ when you went to the interview? And what was your specific preparation strategy during each of, during the times while you were preparing for each of these papers? Like how did you divide the time between the various subjects, sections? What did you give more importance to? So if you can sort of deep dive a little bit more into understanding how your preparation was in each of these phases.
Right. I had a different strategy. I didn't really divide my strategy into prelims and mains from the very beginning, because, like I said, prelims and mains, the syllabus is the same. When it comes to UPSC, let's get one thing straight, that the syllabus is same for all stages, be it prelims, mains, or interview. It's just that the demand of that stage differs. So it's not like the content that you're studying will vary and that you have to divide your preparation into blocks for prelims or mains. In fact, the ideal thing to do would be to prepare for prelims and mains together. So my strategy was that from the moment I started my preparation until 3 months before prelims, I used to study mains and prelims combined. So I'll give one example. If you're reading Lakshmikant, for instance, which is for polity, so most of the content in Lakshmikant is prelims oriented, yet there are a number of topics which are more mains oriented. For example, it covers a number of committees and commissions which were set up to improve our political structure and our administrative structure. So while you're reading Lakshmikant, even if you're reading for prelims, do not skip those portions by, because it makes no sense for you to pick that book up again to prepare for mains. So the ideal way to go about it would be that you prepare for prelims and mains together. One more example, if suppose you are reading a newspaper. So in newspaper, if there's any article about in any news which is going on in current affairs, so you note down certain points which are more important from prelims point of view. Say certain facts, say certain departments which are involved, and certain other facts which are important for prelims. But at the same time, you also make notes on it from mains point of view. You note down what are the negative points, what are the limitations, what are the positive points. Do a critical analysis. Have certain suggestions on those topics. So I would say prepare simultaneously. And it's only when you approach prelims, say if prelims is in June, then you stop your combined preparation somewhere around February end and devote 3 months or 2.5 months purely for prelims. And here is where then the strategy differs. So I will now talk about prelims properly. So when it comes to number of hours, again, it varies from person to person. If you are a very efficient person and you can cover a lot in a few number of hours, so you don't have to study for too many. I don't think there is any strict number, but my suggestion would be that you should definitely keep a stock of how many hours you're studying, because this exam, like I said before, it's not a lot about intelligence or not a lot about how much you read. It's about consistency. It's about discipline. So what I used to do was I had this one app. I used to study with a stopwatch, so that I know I don't fool myself by saying "Aaj to humne bahut padha hai," but stopwatch is saying that I've studied for only 4 hours. So I used to keep a constant check on my number of hours that I was putting in, and my ideal was that I have to put 8 to 9 hours every day. If there was kabhi kam ho jayega, kabhi zyada ho jayega, so that doesn't matter. But that consistency was what was important. And now when it comes to prelims, I will again divide prelims into 2 halves. One is knowledge and the other is, say, mock test practice. So when it comes to knowledge, I made sure that I read very basic books. I had seen too many topper videos and I'd seen too many toppers saying that, don't diversify your sources too much. And there's a reason behind it. If hame generally FOMO hota hai, that fear of missing out, ki nahi, history pe to 4 books hain, how can I read one? I have to read all 4, not realizing that at least 90% of information in every history book will be the same. You will be doubling your effort and not much will come out of it. So I had very, very, very limited sources. And only when I felt that, probably one area is not well prepared by me, I used to go for a second source. But otherwise I did. So I kept my sources very limited. They were very basic books. And in addition to that, I focused a lot on current affairs. And for current affairs, I used to read newspaper regularly. I used to make my notes. Even when I wasn't able to come back to my newspaper notes, the fact that I made it on my own, I could remember and I could recollect whenever any question came in front of me. So current affairs preparation from newspapers really helped me. So this was broadly about how I approached the knowledge bit. But I think the most important part of prelims is your practice of mock tests. Because prelims is becoming extremely competitive, it's becoming extremely uncertain. The kind of questions that come are such that even if you've read everything, you'll be like, oh God, ye kahan se questions poochte hain. So that is the kind of uncertainty around the questions. So what I did for prelims was I learned from my mistake in my previous attempt. Previous attempt, I didn't attempt a single mock test for 2 hours, and that was the biggest mistake I did. Because mock test practice helps you also identify how many questions you have to attempt. So prelims is all about maximizing your marks, because you don't want to be on the borderline. Otherwise, you won't be able to prepare for mains later. So the idea is when you attempt a mock test, see how many number of questions are working best for you. 8. So when I will give one tip about this. So whenever you're attempting mocks, say for first 5 mocks, attempt 80 questions. For the next 5, attempt 85, then 85 to 90, 90 to 95, and see in which bracket of number of questions you've attempted, you get the maximum number of marks. So for some people, accuracy works. So they score a lot of marks in even 75 number of questions attempted. For me, what worked was more number of questions. So I used to attempt 90 to 95. And this is something I realized only after I practiced a lot of mocks, that this is where my equilibrium is. So A, that. B, I hear a lot of aspirants ask me this question that हमारे mocks में बहुत marks cut रहे हैं, that we're not able to increase our marks. So I think where we go wrong there is we treat mock tests in prelims as a source of knowledge only, not realizing it's a lot about strategy. So mock test is not just about finding a new question, finding a new point. It's also a lot about how your mind works when you're answering a question. I will give one example. Being a lawyer, Kritika, you would agree with me, we get very technical. Okay. Until and unless a statement is 100% correct, we will be like, no, there is a scope for something to go wrong here, and I will mark that statement wrong. That really haunted me during my preparation, because I used to mark every statement, as wrong wherever I thought it's not technically correct. And it was only during my practice, whenever I used to get those questions wrong, I used to sit and think, why did my mind work like the way it worked? Why did I choose the wrong option and not the correct option? And it was only after I did this exercise a couple of times that I realized that, oh, I'm being a lawyer here. What is expected of me in these questions is not absolute knowledge, but knowledge from a generalist point of view, because this exam is for generalists. So then I decided, I told myself consciously that, even if I get, say, even if that statement is 80% correct, let's mark it correct. I used to tell me it's okay, let's mark it correct. And you wouldn't believe that in actual prelims exam, I got at least 4 questions correct because of this. If I hadn't realized how my mind used to work, I would have gotten those 4 questions wrong. And I probably wouldn't have cleared prelims. So I will just tell the aspirants that, when you're practicing mocks, just see how your mind is working, see why your mind is choosing the wrong questions. Just sit with yourself and not just treat mock tests as a source of information. Information bahut hai. It's about how your mind works and about correcting how and why you're going wrong in the preparation. So for me, prelims was only about mock test practice towards the end. I used to do one mock test every day from 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning with no fan, no AC, in a hot chambered room, because that's how your examination center will be. So we also need to acclimatize ourselves as per the demands of, because if I am sitting in a comfortable setup, my mind wouldn't really bother, right? But if I am sitting in a hot room and I'm sweating and my energy is getting drained, I need to be prepared for that kind of a scenario also. And these small things make a difference. So for prelims, I would just say, cover your basic sources as soon as possible and then jump into mock test practice. Otherwise, don't wait for your syllabus to get over. Syllabus kabhi khatam nahi hota. Mera aaj tak khatam nahi hai. So I will just say, just jump into mock test practice. So this is what I had to say about prelims. And
mains pe aate hain, because a lot of people want to know about your optionals and how did you prepare for your optionals.
Right. So optionals is usually a very tricky business for students. It wasn't for me because I was coming from a law school. I had studied for 5 years. I was good at law, so law became my natural choice, even when law is considered as, not that scoring a subject. So I will just tell the aspirants that when you're choosing a subject for optional, we usually go after kaun sa hottest optional hai, kaun se optional mein maximum marks aa rahe hain. Our entire energy is driven towards, finding those statistics ki kaun se optional mein zyada marks aa rahe hain. We go for that, not realizing that it might not be my natural calling. If I am a technical person, then sociology probably will not work for me. Right. So something like law, which is a semi-technical subject, will work for me. So I think the first thing that should be our basis for selection of optional is that we should know where our strengths lie. We should know which subject will appeal to you, because you have to be with that subject for a lot of time. You have to write 2 papers. So that should be your first criteria. And second should be, अच्छा इसमें से कौन सा ज़्यादा scoring है, क्योंकि scoring बदलता रहता है. एक time पे PubAd used to get a lot of marks, then PubAd stopped getting a lot of marks, and you can never know. So don't base your choices on things that are not in your hand, on things which are uncertain. Just base your choices on the basis of how you identify yourself. So this will be for optional. And if I have to talk about law optional for 5 minutes, because I am getting a lot of requests for law optional also. So law optional, I think, is one of the very good optionals. Don't get bogged down by the thought that, it's not that scoring. This time also, there are 2 people in top 10 with law optional. This time, I have I have two other batchmates from my batch who have cleared with law optional, and they are in top 100 ranks. So don't think of law optional as something which is not that scoring. Let's not care about that. If you are coming from a law background, then half of the work is already done. You have so much background knowledge that you wouldn't have that knowledge about any new optional that you pick up. And when it comes to law optional, just read the past year questions, identify topics which are being asked very often, and prepare those topics well. And you don't have to go after bulky books. I didn't read MP I was advised by everyone, but I had to you have to apply your mind yourself, right? What's the point of reading a 1,000-page book for something like 150 marks if you can get 90% of the same content from another book? So just identify your sources well, have smaller sources, shorter sources, and make notes. Otherwise, revising the optional becomes an issue, because the biggest problem with this optional is it's huge and you have to remember a lot of case laws. So the idea would be that you finish your law optional, if possible, before prelims. If not finish at least 80% of it, have handy notes ready along with case laws and some sections. Don't too many case laws about the same topic. Otherwise, you will get bogged down because you can't remember so many case laws. You have to be practical also in this preparation. So once you're done with that, then just join any test series or just practice past year questions. Practicing past year questions really helped me, because you have to answer in just 250 words or 150 words. And we lawyers are used to writing a lot. Like we fill pages and pages and pages. But that's one thing that really troubled me. But it was just that when I started practicing past year questions in 150 words, it hit me, अच्छा, इतना ही पढ़ना है. तो बड़ी books पढ़ने का फायदा नहीं है if you just answer something in 150 words. You're not supposed to write a thesis. So just identify the demands of the paper well. That's where most of us go wrong. That's where I also went wrong in my first attempt. So after having talked about law optional, I will just come to mains in general. My strategy was that you have to maximize your marks, because mains is what gets you a rank, not prelims, not anything else. So for mains, I identified that there were 3 papers where the difference in marks is the maximum. Those 3 papers are optional subjects, then your essay and your ethics. And these became my core area of focus. And when it comes to GS 123, GS 123 get covered when you're preparing for prelims also. So a lot of attention towards these subjects. This was one thing: identify which subject you're strong in and which you need to prepare like properly. The second thing I would say is mains is again all about identifying the demands of every paper. क्योंकि जो आप पढ़ रहे हो वो सेम चीज सब जगह जाएगी, बट ऐसे लिखने का तरीका डिफरेंट है, पेपर 1 to 3 का तरीका डिफरेंट है, आपको एथिक्स बहुत डिफरेंटली लिखना है, एंड ऑप्शनल इज अ डिफरेंट बॉल गेम ऑल टुगेदर, right? So I'll give one example. If I am, say, talking about ethics and I'm talking about NGOs. So when I'm going to talk about, when I have to write any answer in ethics about NGO, knowledge very same here. But I have to pick up certain facts and I have to pick up certain words and keywords which suit ethics more, such as empathy, compassion, charity, what we have to give back to society. So there are sentences and content like this that will go into a question of NGO and ethics, and not facts and figures. But when it comes to paper 2, if a question on NGOs is asked in paper 2, I can't give an ethics answer in paper 2. I will have to give an answer which is full of facts, which is full of examples, which is given in bullet points. So my only point here is that your content is the same. You don't have to prepare different contents, but you have to write your answers differently. So for instance, in essay is a literary exam, in the sense you have to show your flow of thought. You have to show how you connect different aspects of an essay. So it's a lot about how you write and not about what you write per se. But GS answers, on the other hand, is a lot about what you write and not how you write. So how I identified these different demands was through answer writing practice only. I didn't wait for my syllabus to get over. I will give credit to my mother for that. She used to bug me every time when I used to say, "Nahi, syllabus khatam nahi, I'm not going to practice answer writing." She was like, I don't care. You just start writing. And I wrote my first ethics paper without even reading E of ethics. I scored really low in that, obviously, because I hadn't finished my syllabus, but I hadn't even started my syllabus. But that broke that inertia that I had of going and writing that exam. So for mains, first is about focus on certain papers where your marks can increase. Second, start answer writing. And third, identify different demands of the paper and write accordingly. And when I say demands of the paper, I also mean demands of the question also, because एक क्वेश्चन डिफरेंट टोन में पूछा जाता है. जस्ट बिकॉज एनजीओ पे एक क्वेश्चन आया है, यू डोंट हैव टू राइट एनीथिंग एंड एवरीथिंग अबाउट जो भी तुम्हें एनजीओ के बारे में आना है लिखना है, वो नहीं करना है. You don't have to show your knowledge. It's not about showing your knowledge. It's about, have you understood the question correctly? Have you understood the tone of the question correctly? And have you answered accordingly? So किसी question में लिखा होगा critically analyze and you just explain. Why? Because हमने question ठीक से नहीं पढ़ा, हमने बस सोचा जो जो आया वो लिख देते हैं. नहीं. If there is a critical analysis वाला question, you have to write positive points, you have to write negative points, and you have to do an analysis. If a question just says explain, then you don't have to do this exercise. You have to just explain and give all the facts that you have. So identify the demands of the question also well, and just tone the question pucha hai. You have to answer in that tone using the same keywords which are being asked. So this will be mostly about mains strategy. I will just like to mention something about essay, because I scored well in essay and it really pulled my score up. So for essay, just read a few past year topper copies. That goes for all the other subjects also. See how they write. See why, there is always something special about a topper copy which makes you learn a lot. I learned a lot from them. See what all goes into a good essay and then prepare accordingly and practice. So I think this is mostly about mains. There's a lot to talk about if there are any specific questions, but this is broadly about mains.
So I think, Vaishali, a lot of people even want to know about your courses.
Okay.
So, for example, which newspaper did you read? What were the books that were you using? And also about your current affairs preparation. So can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, sure. I think my current affairs preparation was very different from most of the aspirants. I didn't really read the monthly magazines that used to come too much. So my first source for current affairs was newspapers. I used to read two newspapers, Hindu and Live Mint. And I used to read explained pages of Indian Express, because that really helps in prelims preparation. And I used to make notes, and I used to make online notes. I did a lot of hit and trial. I used to make hand notes pehle, but you can't do control find and handwritten notes. You can't really combine notes from say a month back and a month later, because current affairs flows. It's not static. So I chose one application called Microsoft OneNote. I divided my note making as per the mains syllabus into different notebooks, and I used to note down my newspaper notes in the specific notebook or page that I had made for every topic. So what happened was, over a period of time, over a year, I had my mains notes ready is tarah se on current affairs, because I had made them myself, and from the very beginning I filtered them. And the second thing that I used to do was, so what we usually do is when we read a newspaper, hum bas news padhte hain upar ka, and we make notes. But if you look at the UPSC questions, they don't ask on the surface level. They go one level deep or two levels deep. I will give one example. This time in prelims, there was a question on wetlands. So Sundarbans was declared a Ramsar site for India last year, and there was a question which was expected out of it. So if anyone would have read that news, then the ideal way to go about it was that you understand that you treat wetlands as a topic and you read everything about it. You read what a wetland is, what is a Ramsar Convention, when was it implemented, how was it implemented in India, what are the wetland rules in India, because you need to know everything about a hot topic, because they won't ask you कि कौन सी site को declare करा है wetland in India, Ramsar wetland site, because that's too easy a question. So we usually don't go deeper into the topics. Another example is Cuba was in a lot of news because of the 5G technology and what was going on in US and Canada. So that means 5G becomes important. And now if 5G becomes important, then every technology and every technical aspect about 5G becomes important. You need to know the difference between 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. You need to know what is LTE. You need to know what volt is. It's because they won't ask you a very simple question on just 5G because it's too obvious, right? They will reward you only when you go a level deeper. So if I would have been preparing that topic, I would have treated that as a topic and prepared it in detail. So what I did was I had a list of say 100 or 200 hot topics, which I made out of my newspaper readings. Agar main usi din prepare nahi kar pati thi, I used to note them down, and weekends was the time when I used to sit down, give a lot 1 hour to every topic and just make notes on all those topics. So what happened then was my current affairs preparation was going on side by side, and because I was preparing over a period of time, I wasn't in a state where I was suddenly mugging up a lot of information from current affairs magazines. Rather, what I found was my notes of current affairs were much more detailed and better than what was available in the market, because no one can put in the amount of effort that you put in for yourself, right? So my suggestion would be that don't depend too much on the ready-made material that is available in the market, because वो सब पढ़ेंगे. If you have to score more than someone else, then you have to put in that extra effort. And trust me, that extra effort gets rewarded. And this is how I prepared my current affairs. So my notes, and then supplemented by whatever material was available. And I think that really, really helped me. This is one thing that I can really vouch for.
So, Vaishali, if I had to ask you, what are the 5 books that you think are mandatory for every UPSC aspirant to definitely go through during
Can you repeat your question?
So I'm saying, if I had to ask you, what are the 5 books that every UPSC aspirant has to definitely go through while preparing for the exam?
You're asking about 5 books?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think there are 5 books per se, but I can, yes, tell you some books which you definitely should go through. For polity, Lakshmikant's really helped. And along with Lakshmikant, if you can read Constitution's Bare Act, then that will also help you, because a lot of questions are directly lifted from the text of the Constitution. So one would be Lakshmikant. Second would be NCRTs in general, and that will cover more than 5 books. But say for geography, NCRTs of class 11th and one NCRT of class 12th are bare minimum that you must do, because NCRTs form that base, and NCRTs are. We also need to realize that UPSC also wants to ask us questions from sources which are available to all aspirants. They're not going to ask questions from a really expensive book or a book which is not available to the masses, because this exam is for the masses. So let's not pick a very exotic book and read it thinking yahan se questions aayenge. Cover those sources which are available to the masses. Those include your newspapers, your NCRTs. So for geography, NCRTs are very important. And I also read GC Leong along with it, because it explains certain topics really well. If your base is good enough, then you can read only 11th and 12th NCRTs. But if you feel that there is any particular subject that you're weak in, that you probably need to invest more time and effort in, then you can go towards, class 9th NCRTs, class 10th NCRTs. I don't think that there's a blanket rule that you should read all NCRTs from class 6 to 12th. This is something that has been asked a lot of times. I don't agree with that unless you yourself feel that need. So, and then apart from this, when it comes to history, Spectrum is one book that I read. I wanted to supplement my knowledge of Spectrum by reading one of the NCRTs, but I couldn't because I didn't have enough time. But I will suggest, if you are someone who wants to read 2 sources for every book, then what you do is you read your first source at least 3 times before picking up the second source. Why? Because when you pick up your second source, you should know kaun si information isme extra hai. And you only highlight and take out that extra information from the second book. If you don't do that exercise, then you will not know what is extra in the second book, and you won't be able to revise 2 books right before the exams, trust me. So history, I will say Spectrum and Bipin Chandra's NCRT, I think. Then for environment, there is Shankar's IAS book. I didn't read the whole of it. So again, one more thing, just because a book is important, that doesn't mean that you read the whole of it. Just apply your mind, apply your discretion. Don't follow anyone's advice like a gospel's truth. You should know what is working and what is not. I realize that I can't read that book entirely. I can rather, prepare well by watching some videos. So I read that book in some portions. And when it comes to ancient and medieval history, then I read Tamil Nadu's textbook. That really helped me. I tried to read R.S. Sharma. Aspirants would know, but I found it too detailed and I didn't find it worth the effort. So I left it after I had read it. So I think that was a wasted effort. But Tamil Nadu textbook really helped me. So I think if I have to sum up, and for economics, I didn't read any book. I used to follow my newspapers very thoroughly, and I used to watch Big Picture a lot. So I didn't read any book per se for economics, but a lot of people read Ramesh Singh. That is one of the books. So if you don't have a background in economics, I had a background in economics because I had economics in my school. So if you don't have a background, that is probably one book that you can pick up. So again, like I said, I don't think there are 5 books per se which are very important, but these are some of the sources that I read. Yeah.
So I think, Vaishali, this is another question I got from the audience. During the exam preparation, you go through anxiety, you go through frustration. How do you think you cope with that?
I think that is one of the most difficult parts of the preparation. You would remember I used to even call you up and say, yaar nahi ho raha hai. I used to call up so many people कि यार ये kahan se kaise karna hai. So I think the very first step to cope with this anxiety is कि accept that it's normal. Accept the fact that this is one of the toughest examinations and that it is not going to be a cakewalk, that everyone goes through the stress and anxiety. The moment you accept कि ये सबके साथ होता है, it will become normal. Otherwise, you just question and you think ये सिर्फ मेरे साथ हो रहा है, कि मतलब मेरे में भी प्रॉब्लम है इसलिए मेरे साथ हो रहा है. टॉपर्स के साथ तो ऐसा नहीं होता है. I don't think there is even a single person who has cleared this exam who can say, it was a cakewalk for them. It isn't. There are lows, there are highs. Just accept कि ये सबके साथ होता है. It's fine. So one is that acceptance. Second would be that take a break. Don't kill yourself in the preparation. This is again something that I learned from my first attempt because I just had 5 months to prepare in my first attempt. I didn't take even half a day's break, and that was the worst thing that I could have done to my body, to my mind, and to my preparation. Because on the day of the exam, my mind was exhausted, my body was exhausted, it didn't work. So I learned from it. In my second attempt, I had targets that I will study for 1 month and I will go on a trip. I will do this much, then I'll do this. So I gave constant breaks to myself. I actually traveled for more than 7 times in that 1 year of preparation, and that really worked well for me. So, give yourselves break. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Yes, if you are not being consistent enough, then that's a problem. But identify sources, identify things that can motivate you to study. And more than motivation, I think what works is discipline. You need to be honest with yourself and just say, discipline के साथ पढ़ना है. And take breaks. कभी लग रहा है दिमाग काम नहीं कर रहा है, take a break. Those breaks should not become a 1-week break or a 1-month break. There should be no break in your preparation as such. But you can choose कि हफ्ते में 5 दिन पढ़ेंगे, 6 दिन पढ़ेंगे, and Sundays को हम आधा दिन नहीं पढ़ेंगे. It's okay. Given the amount of time that this preparation takes, half a day's break will not affect you. So just take breaks, listen to the demands of your body and mind, sleep properly. 1 घंटा कम सोने से भी ऐसा नहीं है आपका एग्जाम निकल जाएगा. गारंटी ये है कि शायद ना निकले because you will be so exhausted by then. So I used to sleep for 8 hours every day, no matter what. So just if you're not healthy, if you're not healthy in your mind and in your body, then this exam will become a daunting task for you. So just listen to yourself, take breaks, accept that your anxiety sabke saath hoti hai. Don't worry too much about the result. Just if you are giving your 100%, then that's what you can give, right? You can't. Fourth thing would be, don't think too much about things which are not in your control. अब optional हटेगा या नहीं हटेगा is not in your control. Don't change your preparation उसकी वजह से. Exam निकलेगा या नहीं निकलेगा, क्या rank आएगी, वो rank पे क्या होगा, we tend to overthink. Those things are not in your control. So don't give too much attention to it. Just ये काम मिला है, preparation करनी है, just do it as well as you can. So yeah. That would be my idea of dealing. That's how I dealt with stress. But yes, there are stressful days. There are days when you cry. There are days when you feel that ये नहीं हो रहा है बिल्कुल. Take the help of your family and friends. They are your biggest support. If you have pets, nothing better. My dog used to give me a lot of support during means. So just identify your sources of motivation, your sources of places where you can just go and vent out and come back and study.
I think, Vaishali, that's some super advice that you're giving to all the aspirants who have joined us today. Now, I think we're out of preparation, and I'd love to hear from you and, for all the people who are aspiring. What is it like to go to Lal Bahadur Shastri? What was the experience at Labas?
It was one of the best experiences of my life. I remember I was really uncertain about leaving my home and going and studying there and just preparing, but it became our second home. And so Vipassana, what it does to you is it brings a lot of people together. So we were people from all the states speaking different languages. It was for the first time that I truly understood how diverse our culture is, how diverse our country is, and to be able to interact and share experiences with people from different corners of the country was, I think, the best part about it. You also meet a lot of good people, people who are going to be with you in the next 30 to 40 years of your service. And it's also that well-deserved break in the lap of nature that you get after you clear your exams. So I think it is definitely something that you look forward to. I am really looking forward to going back to Lavasana after my district training. So that, and at the same time, you also get a lot of exposure. We get exposed to a number of amazing civil servants doing amazing work across the country. Those civil servants are your professors, are your teachers in the academy, and there are a number of guest lectures. And you just realize how much there is to do, how much people and other civil servants are contributing, and it just really motivates you to be like them and to do your bit sincerely when you go into the field. So the experience was amazing. So yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I must tell you guys, every time we spoke to Vaishali while she was at Lavasana, it was just, when we heard her stories, the kind of, trekking trips that these guys had gone to, I think it just sounded amazing. It definitely sounded like a, once in a lifetime sort of an experience. So, now Vaishali, let's talk about your new role in life. So how has it been transitioning from Nabasna to now becoming a COVID frontline warrior? I mean, we are all so proud of you. And now joining your district and working as an assistant commissioner under training officer in Kurukshetra. Can you talk about that a little bit with our people joining us today?
Sure. It's been 2 months since I've been in the district. I think nothing can prepare you from what you're going to find in the district, because administration is such a beautiful machinery. It is so huge. There are so many clogs which are working together to make things work that when you first land up in the middle of everything, you feel a little lost. But in no time, you catch up, and you're in awe of how things are working, how hard people are working, and the world is facing one of the most difficult situations right now, and it is no different in the district also. So while the pandemic situation is a lot of challenge for everyone who's working on field, including for me, it is also a great learning opportunity. The learning curve is just this, because it's only in situation of dire needs that the best in you comes out. And I'm so glad that the team that I have in the district is really working so hard. I'm directly working with the medical team right now because we are setting up COVID care centers, and we're just trying to make sure that anyone who is getting affected who is getting infected is given a comfortable stay. But to see those doctors work day in and day out for the past 3 months without any holiday is a very humbling experience to just realize that this job is not easy, definitely not. But at the same time, the kind of exposure you get, the difference that you can make by just doing your work properly. I'm not even talking about going out of your way. By just doing your work properly, you can do so much that it's a very, very I can say a strong feeling, and it just reinforces my belief in about why I wanted to come in the services. So if I generally talk about my experience, so as I told you, I'm working with the medical team right now, and we are handling the COVID situation, be it increasing sampling or be it increasing screening of vulnerable sections, setting up a COVID care center. So that's all that I am involved in. And apart from this, we're also getting involved in certain initiatives such as converting our office into e-office, increasing the efficiency of work that is going around, and also about working towards for the nature also. So we are trying to come up with a cycling track. We are trying to have certain open spaces, make our streets more inclusive. So these are certain areas, certain works that I am getting myself involved in. And apart from this, my training is going on side by side. I'm training with different departments, understanding how things work. It's a huge machinery. It will take a lot of time to get to really understand how things work. But again, it is a very, very, very huge learning opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to the next 10 months that I have in the district, where I will get attached with even the police department, even with the court system, and I will also be in the tehsil, learning about the revenue structure of Haryana. So I'm really looking forward to it. It seems like UPSC preparation all over again, because it is not an easy task, but uh, the sheer excitement is that much, because the team with whom I'm working, my district collector and all the other officers, are just amazing and offering all the support that's possible to make sure that I learn what I need to learn. So yeah.
I don't think any of us could be more proud of all the work that you're doing and the zeal and enthusiasm that you have towards your job. I think this has truly been one of the most special episodes that I have moderated and have anchored. And it's truly been such an honor and privilege to have you on this platform and talk about so many interesting things about, your transition from a lawyer to an IAS officer, sharing important tips about how to crack this examination, and motivating so many students. I mean, the fact is, you look at the chat box, and so many people are sending such positive messages that they are just so happy to hear from you, and they feel so inspired and motivated. So hats off to you, Vaishali. Thank you so very much for joining us this evening. I think this has truly been a very, very special episode for me, and it was really my honor to have you today.
Thank you, Kritika. Thank you for offering me this platform to reach out to people. And also, it has been, I think, one of the most special moments for me also to be in conversation with you. We've really come so far since we were batchmates. So
Yeah,
this is really special. Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. I know a lot of you people have been asking for a recording of this particular episode. Please make sure you're following our YouTube channel. All our recordings of all sessions are put out there. You guys can go through these recordings again. Follow our social media handles, because we have a lot more inspiring people like Vaishali who will be joining us for our sessions. Thank you so much again, Vaishali. Thank you so much, everyone.
Anytime.
Stay safe, everyone. Take care, and we will see you very soon on our next episode.
Bye bye.